There is one thing I've observed. When you agree with Christ, when you apply righteous judgment individually, a lot of folks just turn away from you. Here's why they turn away. For a very simple reason. They refuse to comply with justice. Because look at this way. If you have criminals who are robbing bank accounts, they don't go to people's houses directly, but through online scams, they rob people. Together, those criminals, they earn around 2,000 euros a month by scamming bank accounts. From each bank account, they take away 50 euros unnoticed. They do this with many bank accounts. So each month, those criminals have around 2,000 euros. Well, they have a so-called job to cover up. They don't really go to work every day. They are just registered as working for some Japanese company, but that company doesn't even exist. Okay, so they faked a certificate and a contract. So that's why every time they have money on their bank, they can say, well, it's because we work for a Japanese company. The scam works. Now let's say now that you have a minister in the country that comes with a new rule that everyone that works for a foreign company needs to pay extra taxes. Well, at first glance, those criminals think, okay, it's a law. Of course, if you work for a foreign company and the foreign company pays you well, you should pay more tax. So the criminals aren't really bothered by it. But then, that same minister comes with a plan that everyone working for a foreign company needs to hand in reports of their job to the local municipalities. Now, this goes much further. Because people that are really working for a foreign company, they can easily hand in their reports. And here's why the minister came with that law. When someone hands in reports, they can check whether the activities that they do for the foreign boss is, first of all, legal, and secondly, they can check whether there's no money laundering going on. So it's really a trick to it's a trick to scan the population so that scammers are revealed. Now those criminals who each earn 2,000 euros a month, those scamming local bank accounts, they know why the minister came with that law. It was to weed out the guys like them. So do you seriously think that they're going to be happy with that minister? Because look at this. They've been scamming bank accounts. They've been illegally withdrawing money from bank accounts for over 5 years. Their whole lifestyle is based on their fake identity as employees of a Japanese company. That's how everyone knows them. So everything they have is based on that lie. So what's going to happen once that lie is exposed and they need to stop withdrawing money from those bank accounts? Two things can happen. Either they'll be required to pay back all the money, which they can't. Because if you had to pay back all the money, it means that all the goods they've bought for their houses need to be sold, and they would end up homeless with nothing. Or let's say the government wouldn't require them to pay back all the money, but would require them to find a job. What would happen? Everything they've built based on that lie will collapse. All their relationships, all their business contracts. So it will be their end. So for those criminals to comply with justice means they're going to lose. They're going to lose things that are there onto them, and they'll have to face the losses. If they refuse to comply with justice, they'll have to find other ways to cover up, and now they're burdened with having to cover up what they're doing. Now they need to fake more documents. So anyway, the presence of that minister in politics is a threat to those criminals. that minister is not a threat unto others who are really working for foreign bosses, but he is a threat to those that are in the negative. Now look, just like those criminals who had benefits that they didn't want to give up, the same way you have people that don't want to comply with justice in general. They simply don't. Because for them to comply with justice means they'll have to face losses. For example, you can have a chick that's sleeping around with her boss and two other men. All those men are married. By her doing that, she's blackmailing those men into granting her a high position at the workplace or to grant them some privileges at work. For her to comply with justice means she'll have to give up those three affairs. She'll have to give up those privileges, and it would also mean that she probably will have to change where she works because her position at the job is not merited through hard work, but through manipulation. So if she would change the job, she will have to explain to others why she changed the job if her career was going well. Then people are going to ask questions, and then things will get uncomfortable. So for her to comply with justice, it means she will have to face losses. Does she want to face losses? No. She just want to be left alone. She always has some excuse or some reason for what she's doing. So if there's someone in her social circle who walks in righteous judgment, that individual instantly becomes her enemy. Or at least she will perceive that individual as an enemy, even though the individual never even considered to harm her at all. Why? Because the one operating in righteous judgment has this righteous effect on everyone he encounters. So she will become uncomfortable around someone operating in righteous judgment because she doesn't want to comply with justice. Because it also means she would have to face herself. She doesn't want to do that either. Just understand the following here. There are people that refuse to comply with justice for the simple fact that they have a narcissistic attitude that they want relief at all costs. Now, the example I gave of that chick that is in three affairs just to exploit those men, that's an extreme example. But let's go to less extreme examples. Let's say a guy had children with other women besides his wife, and now that he's older, he realizes that according to the laws of the country, each child has a right on an inheritance. So anytime those other kids appear and demand a part of their inheritance, he is obliged to grant them a piece of it. So that guy really doesn't want those other kids that he had, those other women, to show up. Because once they show up and demand their part of the inheritance, he is obliged to grant it onto them by law. And if he doesn't grant them, they can hire a lawyer and he's in big trouble. This guy, this man, he wants to be left alone. He did his thing in the past, he thinks so, that's the past, and he doesn't want to face any consequences of what he did. If he has to comply with justice, he will have to confess he has more children out there. He has to confess he lied to his wife. And his family, his children had with his wife, need to make place for their half-siblings, because they also deserve a part of the inheritance. And then the children of that man that he had with his wife will have to accept this, because it's this justice. And then they now have to share part of their inheritance with others that, according to them, are strangers. So what's going to happen? If this family has to comply with justice, they will have to give up something. They have to concede things they don't want to concede. So they're going to get frustrated, annoyed. They're going to become embittered, and they are going to rage eventually when they're forced to comply with justice. Now, that's another kind of extreme example, but I hope you get the picture here. Some folks just don't want to comply with justice because they don't want their comfort zone to be disturbed. They will always come up with excuses for what they've done or for what they're doing. But to comply with justice in here and now, forget about it. It's true that they can't undo what they did in the past. That's true, but that's not an excuse for them not to comply with justice today. Folks that don't want to examine themselves, they just want to be left alone at all costs, they don't want to comply with justice. So the moment you begin to walk in righteous judgment, don't be surprised when certain people just throw you away or don't want to be around you anymore. Because you operating in righteous judgment has an effect and an impact on them. And that impact or effect is something they don't want to go through. They don't want to face it. But because there's power coming from you, they know that challenging you can face any repercussions against them. There are two things they can do. They can put up with it and eventually conform and comply with justice and taking outcomes in reality they don't want. Or they can seek relief, and many take this option by avoiding you. Just understand that some folks just don't want anything to do with justice. Justice is their enemy. Even though they will never admit this, that means you are their enemy. And they will treat you as an enemy. They will treat you as a threat. Because in practice, you are a threat onto them. You are a threat onto their comfort zone that they illegitimately hold intact. Okay, let's say now that you have a guy that lost his mind, he killed his girlfriend and committed suicide. This is another parable. Now you as a detective, you want to find out what happened. So you want to find out why this guy lose his mind. And then you look into his past and you realize that there are things that doesn't add up. Now the people in his past that psychically abused the guy, they don't want you to figure out what they've done. Because they now have families, jobs, they have their so-called comfortable life. They didn't want to have disturbed. But now that guy that was their victim committed suicide and he killed someone. They are the ones that caused the mental breakdown of that guy. So they have contributed to the death of that woman. So indirectly, they complied with murder. They don't want to face this. But you are a detective now and you want to find out what happened. What do you think those people are going to do? Let's say one of those individuals that was one of the perpetrators has a husband. And the husband now, or the boyfriend, doesn't want the truth to come out because then people will find out what his wife did. And that he will have to face the type of woman he's with also. He doesn't want all of that. So now that partner of that female perpetrator will become your enemy. Because you are there to find out the truth. You're out there so that justice would happen. Now for justice to happen means that all the perpetrators will be treated as perpetrators and that they need to comply with justice inherent now, and men, folks don't want that to happen. So not just the perpetrators, but also those that have a vested interest in the perpetrators will become your enemy. They will treat you as a threat. They will take actions against you. Just realize that when you walk in righteous judgment, people will become your enemy because they will treat you as an enemy. You will become the enemy of some people when you walk in righteous judgment. Out of the blue, just like that. Because they do not want to comply with justice. And such folks eventually will persecute you. And some of them are creeps that will try to take you out, to take away your life. I mean it. That is what the apostles endured. That is what the prophets of old endured. That is what Christ endured. Welcome to the kingdom of God. You will go through that also. Just don't take it personally. Just realize it's those people that refuse to give up the negative. Just keep on going. And listen, if you had people that invested in the negative against you, especially those type of people don't want to face justice. They don't want to comply with justice. So they will either try to trick you into a fake peace so that they are left alone. Or if that doesn't work out, they will lie about you to get people to turn on you. Or they will simply rage, and rage become self-destructive, and begin to take it out on other people. Understand that a lot of folks don't want to comply with justice. But here's the thing. Their non-compliance with justice is compliance with injustice. And that makes them vulnerable to evil spirits. So they're really destroying themselves. Now look, when you notice that certain people just drop you, when you begin to walk in righteous judgment, just keep on going. Those people are not worth reconciling with. You will only get fights and drama with such people. Those people will eventually turn into malignant narcissists. I'm telling you. Well, that's it for now. Agree with Christ and be at peace.